Hi, welcome to today's tutorial. Today we'll be learning to make these beautiful cherries using watercolors. So I'm using an A6 watercolor sheet, and we will start off by creating our leaves directly with a round brush. So I normally try not to draw too much, especially when I'm doing these kind of florals, because it's really nice to get a very flowy idea out there. So I'm using a Princeton velvet brush over here, and I find it very useful for doing these tiny areas. It also holds quite a lot of color. Like if you notice over here, I don't keep going back to my colors very often. I do a good amount of coverage on the paper, and only then I go to refill my colors. You can also turn your paper around. You can also put some masking tape on the edges if that's something that you're more comfortable with, if you don't want it to be moving too much. Like you can see, I'm using my left hand to hold the paper down a little bit so that I'm able to comfortably paint with it. So I've also not put masking tape here because I want the background to be not very perfect in terms of the edges when we do it in the end, which is the reason why I haven't basically put any masking tape around. Time to put the cherries right now. So I've taken like this really nice medium color of the cherry color. You could use a vermilion, you could use a crimson. Don't worry about the color which is there. Don't mix white when you're doing your watercolors, because what happens is the consistency changes. It is not any translucent anymore, and it becomes slightly opaque. It starts acting like gouache. So when you're doing watercolors, do not mix white with your colors. So what I'm doing right now is just creating these tiny circles, and I'm leaving like a dash of white everywhere. Some of these areas could be on the left side, some of them could be on the top, some on the right side, some at the bottom. So what happens in that case is it looks like a bunch of cherries, and which are looking at different directions. Not all of them are towards the same direction, so it kind of gives a very nice, beautiful feeling and an aesthetic appeal to it. Once the base colors are done, I'm going to add now a small layer of dark colors of the same shade on top of them. Since they have not completely dried, I'm able to make these as a layer on top, and they blend with each other. In case yours have dried out, you just have to use a little bit of water to blend it in a little bit if needed. Since the area is really tiny, it is okay even if it doesn't blend in too much, but ensure that it's not too dark, the second layer that you're creating in that case. So I am used to the speed, so I make them a little faster. But if you're a beginner who is watching this tutorial, feel free to take your time to do this. You don't have to match the speed that I've got. It is completely up to you. You can create as many layers as you want. So now I'm going to let this dry for a bit and then see how the colors settle in. So it looks really nice when the colors have settled in. It still looks pretty bright, so I don't need to add any more colors for the cherry. So I'm going to now create the background. I've used a cadmium yellow, also I like to call it as the mango yellow because it looks so beautiful, like the mango. So I'm just going to go around my entire object, and I'm not going to touch the leaves or these cherries, and then I'm going to go around those places. And even in the edges, if you notice, I'm not creating like this equal border space because these kind of cards look very nice this style. So when you're making this kind of a background color, make sure that you mix enough color in the beginning itself and you keep it, because midway through your painting, if your color gets over, you'll not be able to mix the same color again. It's very difficult in watercolors to get the exact shade back again. You're lucky if you get it in the first try, otherwise you have to go up and down a little bit. So what happens when you do these mixing of colors the second, third time is you lose out on really good time, and your base layer which you've already painted would have dried off by then. So what happens is you get patches of colors. So to avoid doing that, make sure that you always mix enough color and keep it. Since it's watercolors, it's not really going to go waste. You can leave the colors onto your palette. You can always come back again and activate it back by adding a little bit of water to it. So that's something that I try and do very often. I make sure that I don't really mix very less color in the beginning. So that's a good tip to work on. Since this is A6, I've used a round brush, slightly bigger size. Here I'm using, I think, a size 8 to add in the details. If you're using a bigger size of paper, feel free to use a mop brush. You can even keep switching between brushes, like these tiny areas. If you feel that you're not able to handle it with a big brush, just switch over to a smaller brush and fill in the areas. I love creating the background. It is such a soothing process. It makes me feel really happy, and it's a very satisfying process as well. So I hope you also enjoy creating this as much as I do. If you're new over here, do consider subscribing to my channel so you can get updates about different kinds of art tutorials that I put up. And you can also follow me on Instagram, and if you're recreating this painting, you can tag me on Instagram and I'll be able to see what you have created. This is how my painting finally looks. I love how it looks. It's come out so beautiful. You can even use it as a card. You can frame it, put it on your wall. You can also write a nice message behind and give it to somebody. Hope you enjoyed today's video. Thank you.